Welcome to The Engaging Life, a podcast about using engagement equity to improve your relationship building skills in your personal and professional life. And now, here are your hosts, Brandon Suba and Angela Cheney.
Hello there, Brandon.
Well, hello. And I'm going to look at you this time.
Good.
Last time I just flew right off camera.
You did. So this is our Halloween edition.
Oh, boom.
But as I told Brandon earlier, I don't reserve this sweater just for Halloween.
And we're probably...
I like muscles.
Well, we're well past Halloween when this is airing too.
But
so.
we are recording this on the Friday before Halloween.
Right.
And this is the day we are having our Halloween party.
Mm.
I am not in my Batgirl costume because...
You're Batgirl? Isabel's... No, Charlotte is Batgirl.
Well, great minds.
Oh, I'd love to get you guys the
That'd be
picture together.
cute.
Come to Trunk or Treat at 4:30 later
No.
today. I don't blame you. I don't want to go, and I have to. So
we will be at Wind Up and our Halloween party.
And the yeah, no, you're busy.
Party,
Yeah,
yeah.
You do have plans.
I'm not much of a costume person.
Okay. So what do you have for your Bat costume?
Something I ordered on Amazon.
What is it?
It's the dress with the Batgirl logo,
it's-
and I have a mask.
Okay, well that's a costume. That's
It is.
very Halloweeny.
Sure,
Halloweeny.
but yeah,
By the way, I gotta touch on this. You said muscles, right? Like you said, I'm very into muscles. I thought you
Yeah.
said muscles, like muscles. I'm like, does your Batgirl have a muscle?
nope, muscles.
Muscles.
Muscles. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about something that I talk about a lot, but it's a little bit of a different spin on it. We've talked about listening,
Mhm.
many times, and there's a reason for that. It is really core to being engaged. I mean, it is, you cannot be engaged without listening. But what I want to talk about today is listening openly, because they are very different things. I think a lot of people believe that listening is just hearing.
I do.
Yeah.
I have, because I know where you're going to go with this, and so I've tried to get better, but I very much listen to respond.
Yep.
That's-
Listen to
it's
respond, listen to
So hard.
argue, listen to not, hear, but not really listen.
Mhm.
All of these different things that we can be doing. So I wanted to talk about listening openly. And that's not just, this takes it another step, past what we've already talked about. Yes, you can listen and actually hear what is being said. And that is listening. But when you listen openly, that means you are ready to hear things that contradict with what you think. Other opinions, other beliefs, other things that might upset you,
Mhm.
and be willing to respond to that in a positive way. And so I think that, being closed off and being, I'm right, comes off as egotistical. It comes off as know-it-all-y. But you know what it really is? It's insecurity.
Oh.
Because you're basically saying, I am not strong enough. I am not capable enough. I am not smart enough to consider your ideas. That's what's going on. It's not probably what's coming out. What's coming out is, I know better than you.
Mhm.
I'm smarter than you. My way's better, which comes out jerky.
Right.
But it's really a vulnerability. You are saying, I'm not good enough. I don't feel good enough about myself to think I can handle this and have an open mind about it.
Hmm.
So, really your people that are the most that way, just stuck in their ways. Number one, they have a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
We've talked about, the mindset thing before. But most of those that have the fixed mindset, it comes from a deep insecurity.
Hmm.
And so we're going to talk a lot about leaders in this one, which is good because most of the time I go off the... That's I'm not supposed to say that anymore.
What? Go on.
Off the reservation. Isn't that a no?
Oh, rails. You can say off the rails, I
Yeah,
believe.
off the rails.
Let's not... Crisscross applesauce also is...
that's wrong too?
No, that's right. The old way is not good. Which...
I don't know the old way.
Sitting Indian style is what we grew
Oh,
up with.
yeah.
I
That's
thought
what we
Chris-
called it.
Yeah, I thought crisscross
I'm like,
applesauce
what's wrong
was just
with
something
applesauce now?
cute and neat. And then, and I'm so sad to
Hmm.
say this because I learned that when Isabel was in daycare. She's 9 years old now. I did not realize why it was a good change. I thought it was just cute. And then the other day, it
Okay.
clicked in my head. So
Which I don't.
off
Whatever.
the rails.
We are not going to get into all of that today. The other big one too about listening openly is you've got to be willing to lose control. And again, that's another low self-esteem.
Mhm.
Controlling behavior is really the product of low self-esteem. It comes off as something much different, but for the most part, it is low self-esteem. So while it will feel like listening openly will feel like you do not have as much control over a situation, because you can never control what comes out of somebody else's mouth.
Right.
No matter how hard you try, if you listen openly and are open to it, you have no idea.
Mhm.
And this happens. So my husband and I got in a fight last night.
Really?
It's still kind of ongoing, but trying to work it out this morning.
Ooh.
I was sitting there and I was like, tell me why, blah, blah, blah. And then I sat there and I was afraid. I was like, I have no idea what is going to come out of his mouth right now. And I tried to make it a very open question.
Mhm.
Please tell me how you felt, whatever. I tried to make it very open, but I did. And then I was scared. I'm like, and then I just sat and waited. I'm like, he could say something really awful right now that will change maybe who I think of myself as a person, how I
Wow.
think of myself as a wife, how I think of myself as a partner. And to be honest, he did say some awful things.
He did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, at first, I actually stood up and started to walk away. And he's like, yep, heard something you didn't want to hear. Now you're done.
Man, this was in the morning. See, we don't fight in the morning because Liz doesn't fight fair.
Does anybody really? So I came back and then he's like, no, you can just go away.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, no, I do want to hear this, however hurtful it may be. And however, there was some of the stuff he said that was BS. I mean, that's the thing about listening openly. It doesn't mean you have to accept everything. Right. You just have to be willing to consider it. But there was some stuff he said that was true. And it wasn't pleasant to hear. I didn't like how it reflected on me as a wife, a person who I think I am. But it was good for me to hear it.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, I had to give up that control. You can easily lead a conversation when you're in an argument. Well, you thought this, but I did that,
Yes.
And try and get them just to agree with what you're saying. But when you ask a very open question like that and then be willing, it's hard.
I'm proud of you for coming back.
Thank you.
Because I know that's not always easy.
It is not. And that is not my norm, is to get away physically.
Yep.
To get away.
No, Liz is on the introverted side. So when I'm ready to hash it out right then and there, she needs her time. And so sometimes she'll walk away and I just go, that just fuels that fire.
Yeah.
But I try to tell myself she needs this though.
Yeah.
And then, the problem is that I cool off and I just don't care after that. So then I'm like, you can win.
Fine, we're done. Yeah. So it requires us to have confidence and to realize that this confidence makes people trust you.
Mm.
And then it's okay to give up the control, because really what you always have control of, always, 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 is yourself and your reactions. So really confidence or control of anything other than that is a complete illusion.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what we're trying to do, no matter how hard we're trying to do it, everything is out of your control except for your own reactions and how you respond to things.
And it goes back to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You can't.
That's right.
You
And we
can't.
talk about that later.
Oh, sorry.
No,
that was coming
it's
up.
okay.
I'm getting triggered on this one, by the way. I have
That's good.
a phenomenal story that I'm going to find a way to slide in because I think it's becoming more and more common what people are dealing with. It was a little more personable, like within the family, not direct family. But yeah, I'll share the story later. Keep going.
So listening openly demands that we expose ourselves to ideas that might conflict with our own, and that we have to listen to them with receptive willingness, honest and receptive willingness. And if you're not doing that, it's going to show. I am the worst when it comes to whatever I'm thinking's on my face. I can't hide it. I absolutely, and I'd say my husband and I get in more fights about my facial expressions than anything else. And I'm like, that's why I would rather text about it, because I can digest it.
Yeah.
And then I can give the reaction that I do feel after I'm able to digest and get over my initial reaction. then it's a more authentic answer that I can give you. He sees it as I'm lying.
Oh, that you're planning, right?
Yeah. Manipulating, planning the best. And it's like, that's not really true. I get triggered, I get emotional, but that initial bleh, that's not really what I think.
That's a surface answer, isn't it?
That's just what comes out. If you give me a moment, ignore the initial or whatever it is I'm doing. That's so awful. Give me a moment. But you have to. So being willing, if you're not willing and open, it's going to show.
Yeah.
And you can't fake it. So it really has to be a change within yourself. And some people just aren't capable of doing it until they do a lot of work on themselves as a person. So you really have to make yourself vulnerable. And that's very, very, very difficult for a lot of people. But it's being vulnerable where our true confidence in ourselves comes out. I mean, to be vulnerable, confidence and vulnerability hand in hand.
Sure.
And it may not seem that way, but it is. And then also, when you're opening yourself up like that, especially to your employees, and are being so willing to listen and take into consideration what they're saying and being able to change your thoughts and your views, you inspire so much trust. They trust you so much more, and they are more confident. And they feel more trusted, and they feel more value. And that's the way to lead in a transformative way. I think too many leaders think, I can't show any weakness. I can't say I don't know the answer to something. I can't say that my way isn't right because that's weak. And it's really the opposite.
Is there an extreme to that too, where you can't be weak all the time though?
But listening openly is not weakness. It's not saying, I don't know, help me, I'm lost. It's just saying when somebody has something to say, you need to listen openly to it. Again, you don't have to accept it all. They could be saying, hey, we need to completely change our stuff and you need to pay me $50,000 more. I mean, again, you're never going to know what they're going to say. It does not mean you have to accept it. It does not mean you have to do something about it. It just means you have to listen. But I will put a little bit of a caveat on there. Once you do become this type of open listener, you do have to set expectations of, hey, we just had this conversation. I've listened openly. I've considered everything you said. We're not going to do X, Y, Z, and here's why. But this one thing you said might have merit, and here's what we will do next.
But I see that process. You've listened, you process, and then you come back with a solution, where I think a lot of the times what people generally deal with is, I will listen to you openly, listen, no.
Yeah.
And they don't.
And that's not listening.
It's not listening. No, you already had your answer before we even started the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was our fight this morning. I knew what happened, and he knew what happened. They were two different things.
Yep.
And if one of us would have let go of it and then that would have been a little unbalanced. The only way for something like that to resolve itself is that both of you are able to let go of, maybe I don't know exactly what happened. And so it got to this whole, he was like, you made me feel this way when you said this. And I said, that was absolutely not my intention to make you feel that way. This is what I was trying to say. He's like, it doesn't matter what you were trying to say. This is how I felt.
Yep. Oh, that's so hard.
How you get past, that's an impasse.
So hard.
I apologize for how you felt. That's not on me. All I can say is I did not mean it that way. You chose to take it that way. I can apologize that it came out that way, I guess. But that is an impasse. We both had to let go of
it.
Yeah. I had to say I did not mean for it to come out that way. And he had to say I should not have interpreted it that way, because it is one of those things. And it can be with employees. It can be with a spouse. And this is what I tried to say. I'm like, you took my words to mean this. Have I ever made you feel that way in the past? Because if it's a pattern, that's something different.
Absolutely.
If I was on his ass all the time and saying I say this frequently and made him feel this way frequently, then he had every right and expectation but he agreed that I have never made him. So it was like, I think this was kind of in your head, and you took what I said to hit, and it's one of his big hot buttons, the big vulnerability of his. And I tried to tread lightly around it, did not realize I was stomping on it. But, you know, going back into that historical, you know, we've built enough trust with each other that it's like, you know, I don't feel that way. You feel that way about yourself.
So I went on a ski trip with a buddy. He moved to Colorado. We grew up together. He moved to Colorado. Had some family challenges, let's say.
Okay.
And he shared a little bit with me. We don't talk a lot, but we had kind of this ski trip that we started doing. We were up in the mountains. And he's done very well. He's very successful in the business world. And you all the listeners know I have all these little one-offs, right? And the one that I was really focused on at the time too, and happened to play in, is I said, gosh, and you know what? People think you didn't do anything to earn your success because they just see the success, but I know all the hard work you put in. What he heard was people are saying you didn't do anything and you were just given the success.
Ooh.
And he lost his mind. Now, once again, there were so many other things, but it got to the point that I did leave. Like we drove down the mountain, I got in my car and I left. I started driving home. He was text messaging Liz. He was saying all these bad, horrible things. And so Liz is like relaying back and she's taking it 100% personally. And I said, Liz, everything that is going on right now has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to be in that spot when whatever all came crashing down.
You tripped the landmine.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was very hard for me to just accept that, but it made it so I could get through that. Because once again, I meant absolutely nothing negative towards it. I was actually supporting his hard work. But that day he interpreted it this way. And yes, I would have never talked to him that way ever before, but he could not get over it.
Mm-hmm.
It did not kill our friendship, but it definitely has changed our friendship.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, you've got to be willing to do that. You know?
Yeah.
You've got to be willing to have the hard conversations, to hear the hard stuff, to say the hard stuff sometimes. And realize that, because a lot of relationships are built on bullshit.
Yeah. Yep.
They're built on, I'm going to kiss your ass, or I'm going to lie to you, or I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. A lot of relationships are built on that. And that is what maybe some people like, what they are used to. And that's fine. If you want to live an authentic, engaged life, you got to get past that and realize that some of those are going to, either they're going to change or they're going to go away.
Right.
And while that, like your example was a friend, which is hard. It's hard to lose a friend. But now think how much harder am I willing to have the hard conversations with my spouse when that might mean the ruination of a marriage?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's why I think a lot of marriages get to the point they do. They're no longer willing to take that chance. They would rather just have the surface and the, you know,
ride it out until, what do I see a lot? Ride it until the kids are out.
Either that or just forever because they want to start over or, and the sad thing is a lot of the times if you do have that hard stuff, it's not easy. I mean, in the moment, it is not easy. Sometimes it's not easy for hours afterwards, days afterwards, months afterwards. But if you have a solid foundation and you're willing to keep working on it, you'll get to so much better of a place.
Yeah.
Where you can have the authentic conversations. Because is a relationship really worth it if it's all built on bullshit?
No.
I don't think so.
It just cracks so easily.
Yeah.
And then I feel at that point your options are, well, we're either not going to be friends or we're just going to overlook this and keep being friends.
Right.
I think we both kind of agree on this. I don't have time for that.
No.
Like, I don't have time. Unfortunately, I'm going to choose we're not friends anymore because there's nothing time. Now, marriage, totally different because you do have some ties there. But as far as friendships go, I hate to say it, I will drop a friend like that mainly because I don't have time for whatever you're dealing with now. Now, you come to me and you need support. You want to talk about this and you beat me up a little during it. Absolutely. Because you opened up and you came. But for that example, I mean, he was just wrong place at the wrong time for me. I don't need that.
Right. And then you'd always be afraid afterwards. Am I going to say the wrong thing again?
Or when are you going to lose your mind again?
Right.
Because Lord knows I'm going to keep saying the wrong thing. But it wasn't the wrong thing. It was just, it was like a positive
It's what he
thing.
heard.
It's exactly what he heard.
Yeah.
Yep.
So listening openly, what does that look like?
Ooh.
What does that look like? The first is don't interrupt. I mean, that's just kind of which it's so easy to do because you're like, oh, I know what they're going to say next, or oh, I have a story, or I mean, and those are positive ways of not positive ways of interrupting, but you're doing that for a good reason.
Right.
You can also do it, nope, they said something that does not coincide with my values or my beliefs. Done. Don't want to hear another word. I mean, there's different levels of interrupting. Every level is not conducive to listening openly.
Right.
Every level of it. Don't interrupt. Let them, if they're rambling, if they're whatever, let them get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Let them do it. Make sure you understand. So this is a big thing that mostly Todd and I do this well. Not so much
Not this morning.
last night, is make sure you understand, especially if it's an argument. Make sure you understand what and he finally was able to come around. He's like, there's two different levels of things going on here.
Oh.
And he was like, this thing, I can get over, whatever we've talked about, I can get over this. This isn't that big of a deal. It's this thing. And what it was the big hot button.
Yeah.
You made me feel this way. I'm like, okay, I see what, and part of me, I was like, I didn't really make you feel that way. You just feel that way. But all I could do was, I am sorry,
Yep.
But then it wouldn't have gotten to that point if I wouldn't have been still seeking to understand what had really happened here. Because as most of our fights are, on the surface, it's like, well, how did that turn into this?
Yeah, I hate
it's
those.
so dumb.
Yep.
And usually it gets to that one of us tripped a trigger on the other one that's very deeply ingrained. And
you guys aren't
boom.
hard. You're not hard-headed at all either, right?
No, neither of us are stubborn in the least. But make sure you understand. And it doesn't have to be a fight. If you're sitting there talking to one of your employees and they're like, hey, I would like a $10,000 a year raise, something like that, or I don't like my working environment, something like that, just immediately thinking, oh, they want to get paid more, or, oh, They would rather work from home, instead of being like, tell me what you don't like about, tell me more, yeah. And just really getting in there and making sure you really understand what's going on in that conversation, because it's so easy not to. It's so easy to assume. It's so easy to think they think like you do, or, hey, if I can just make it about this, that's easy. If somebody says, I don't like my working environment, you're like, ooh, they must not like their chair. I'll just get them a new chair. There, solved.
That's the surface one. Or I think you can even go deeper where they don't like their working environment, and then instantly you're like, okay, well, you're going to leave. Like, we lost this employee. They don't like the work environment. There's nothing we can do to fix this.
Done.
So we're probably going to lose them next week. And I've seen that mentality, and I'm like, you probably lost a good person because of your mentality on that.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. The next is learn each person's story. So here we have again the platinum rule. If this is just somebody, if you're trying to listen openly to a cashier or whatever, you can't do this. Nor should you. People are waiting in line behind you. Let them get their groceries.
I do self-checkout, so I don't even deal with it anymore.
You talk to yourself.
I do.
But this is your employees. You should know their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously your spouse, your children, your friends. But you've got to it takes time, it takes energy. But if you learn people's stories, then you'll be able to listen to them better, because you can know that, oh, when she's really triggered like this, it's better to, let her get it all out. Or when I say this, I know this person's going to initially react this way because of, whatever.
Past experience.
Yeah. And you just have to, give them some reassurances or whatever. And of course, learning people's stories, it makes them feel seen. It makes them feel heard. It makes them feel understood. And that earns you so much trust, because you aren't just a butt in a seat. Then you become a part of the culture. You become a part of the company, and you know that you matter to the boss, the management. So you've got to learn people's stories. And the best way to learn somebody's story?
I want to use the word curiosity.
Listen openly.
Oh, listen openly. Right. That's what this story's on.
Yeah. And curiosity, of course, is always part of it too. So I saw a great, and I don't know how accurate this is, but it was a framed, and it was a photograph of Johnny Cash and Elvis Presley. And I think I misinterpreted the quote, because it was, son, don't judge what you don't understand. You never walked a mile in this man's shoes. And I thought he was telling Elvis that Elvis had judged someone and he was trying to, and apparently I could very well be wrong, because I think it was Todd who told me the other way, so I'm probably right. It was, he was saying that to somebody else who was judging Elvis.
Ah.
So I don't know. I don't even know if it was actually said. You know how these things happen. But, and the part wasn't that you never walked. Obviously, we've heard
You can't.
that a million times. But I love the don't judge what you don't understand.
Mhm.
And really, for the most part, especially if we don't know people, you don't understand anything about them.
Right.
You know, and somebody walks in, oh, look, they're fat, or they're wearing terrible clothes, or they're rusting bitch face, or whatever you think. You don't understand them. You don't understand where they came from, what they're going to, their hurts, their struggles,
Mm-hmm.
none of it. And judging is just, it is human nature. It saved us when we were cave people. You had to judge, is this person safe? Is it not? Is that situation safe? Is it not? And you had to do it like that, or you could die.
Wow.
I mean, it's evolved.
Yeah.
There was a reason for it. But now, I mean, I need to judge if that person's going to stab me in the alley or not. You still have to do that.
Yeah. Right.
But for the most part, the judgment has become more of a way to make yourself feel superior.
Right. It's more reflecting on how I'm better than you
Yeah.
versus you're going to kill me
Right.
or I need to defend myself.
Right. Absolutely. So the other is stay in the moment. It's very, very easy to get distracted when you're in a conversation, and it shows. You know, even if you're still looking at them, you know, the eyes go glazed, or you aren't looking them anymore. You're looking at your phone, or there's so many ways that you can be listening, but not really listening, and the other person's going to know it. And I love when people do this to me, because especially with our phones, I think it's you don't even realize you're doing it.
Yep.
And if somebody is talking and they say, and it doesn't have to be mean, I'll wait till you're done there.
Oh, I do that all the time.
And I like it. I'm like, I'm so
Yep.
sorry. I am sorry that I did. And Todd and I will do that too. I'll be talking. He'll pick up his phone. I'll be like, okay, I'll wait till you're done there.
Yeah. Oh, and
it makes you feel shitty. And I know it makes it, but
you can't multitask.
No.
You can't be focusing on whatever's on your phone and still engaged in the conversation. I can't even take notes. Like if I'm getting coached or something, I will say, okay, great, pause. I'll write it down. I'll say, go ahead. Because for the longest time, I faked it. And I would write and I'd be listening. You can't see unless you're watching YouTube, the quotes. I'd be listening, but I wasn't. And I finally learned for myself to say, I need you to wait. Because everything you say as I'm writing, I'm not going to comprehend, and I'm engaged in this. But I will wait. I do it all the time because I feel like I'm not being listened to.
yeah. And you have every
So,
right to say that.
Yeah. And I don't think it's mean. I think it's
No.
putting someone in check, and we
It
never
doesn't
want to be
have
checked.
to be.
Right.
It can
But-
you can say it meanly.
But you are telling them you're not respecting me.
Yeah.
You're making a choice that I don't agree with. I mean, in a very calm manner. But we hate when we get checked.
Yeah.
I mean,
Everybody does.
even when Liz and I both agree, like, hold us accountable not to be on the phone. And then she's like, hey, get off your phone. I'm like, well, no.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It
It's
is.
weird.
And I even have a friend. This is my friend who really likes to be on the phone. So it's a wonder that we've maintained our friendship. But that she will, if she hears me typing when we're on the phone, she will say, I will wait till you're done there.
Liz can't. When she's at work, if we have to talk on the phone at work and I hear
Mhm.
typing, because I will say everything and then there'll be that awkward, weird pause. And then she'll be like, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm like, you don't know what you just agreed to. Yep.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So I have it in my notes. Now let's talk about outside leadership, when we really were mostly talking about outside of leadership this whole time.
we got it.
But how about trusting yourself enough to listen openly to your kids? What are you saying there? You're saying that your kids might know more than you do about
Oh.
something. And that is very,
Oh.
very, very tough for a parent, because a lot of the time it's the same thing as being a leader. As a parent, we think it's our job to teach. We think it's our job to direct. We think that if our kids see that we don't have all the answers, that it's going to make them fearful. And that's just not true.
Mhm.
You know, if your kid sees that you're willing to listen and be open and say that, you know what, that makes more sense than what I was thinking. Or, you know what, I just learned something from you.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about connecting and deepening that relationship, because parenting is a two-way street. I think
Mhm.
too often we think of it as a one-way street. but you do have to earn their trust. You do have to earn their love, not earn their love, but you know what I'm saying.
You do.
You have to put in the value to make the relationship better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a given. It's, like in leadership, it's not you give them a paycheck and now you've given all the engagement equity you need to ever give. Not true. And with a child, I birthed them. I have given them all the, and you hear parents say, I birthed you. Like that's all you ever have to do as a parent.
Oh, guess what? I pull the, I'm sorry, but do you have a place to sleep? And do you have a TV to watch? And do you have Netflix? So I think we're equal here. Yeah. I've said that many times.
Yeah. So that one's tough. Trusting yourself enough to listen to your spouse. That's a tough one because a lot of the times you have to admit you're not right and they are. And this is one too. Even if they're not right, sometimes your spouse just needs a win. And we've gone through this where it's been, maybe we've gotten on a topic for a number of weeks that I just tend to know more about, or he's had a tough time at work, or I think the kitchen was really hard on Todd.
Oh, because the remodel.
He initially told me, this is your kitchen. You get to make all the decisions. And he was very, very good he never went back on that.
Right.
But I think that was harder on him than he realized. And so now here I am making all these decisions with the contractor. I think he started to feel a little less than. Mm-hmm. And that's when we got the hot tub, Your Honor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Which was all his, right?
And I was just kind of like, what the hell's going on? He just bought this hot tub when we have this very expensive. And I was just like, oh, I see what's going on here. And so sometimes they just need a win. And it does. We talk about this a lot. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Mm-hmm. What I've gotten into the habit of is not going back and showing I was right. Like somebody misquotes something and I will go and read it. Actually, great example.
You prove them wrong.
Yes. A mutual friend. We were talking, we went on a guy's vacation, and for whatever reason, the conversation came up that I approached him for our friendship. Like I came to him and it was his birthday. So I was just like, oh, that doesn't seem right, but okay. So when I was with another guy, I think we were like changing to go out or something. I scrolled through my phone and I looked at our original message, and 100% it was him reaching out first saying, hey, so-and-so said we should connect. And I was like, yeah, let's do that, blah, blah, blah. And I went back and forth. Well, I showed it to that guy because, deep down inside, you got to like, oh, at least somebody has to know. And he goes, oh man, we're going to give him so much shit tonight. And I said, it's his birthday. I'm not going to say a word.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a few weeks later that the other guy brought it up in the group, and the birthday boy kind of looks at me and I was like, it didn't matter. Yeah. Like, I don't know why people are obsessed with this proof. And so I'm really trying to be more on I think it kind of goes back to, aren't there 3 rules? If it's garbage, doesn't matter, or won't change it.
Is it kind?
Yeah.
Is it true? Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
Yes. And I'm really trying to run through that. And guess what? I talk less now because I'm eliminating so much of that crap because I don't think it is necessary. We get hit up being wrong all the time now. And it's personally like, you catch yourself being wrong, and I'm wrong all the time. If you've ever listened to this podcast, you should know that. But I don't think it's fair that everybody's always trying to throw it back at people. I'm trying not to.
And you know what so I tend to do this. We were looking at Porsches. And he's like, I think that, don't laugh, I'm getting one. He was like, I really think you would like the Macan. And I was like, oh, is that a crossover? He's like, no, it's a small SUV. And I'm like, no, I think it's a crossover. And he's like, no, it's a small SUV. And I'm like, okay. So I went to drive one. First thing out of the dealer's mouth, so this is the Porsche's crossover. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
And what did I do? I went home and he was like, well, they're kind of the same thing as.
There you go. Yeah,
the only thing that happened is I looked like an asshole.
Yeah.
That's it. And you know what it does when you do that? Especially with a spouse. Now we're on opposite sides.
Oh,
instead of we are a team working for a common goal, which is the health of our marriage. Now all of a sudden you're in competition. Who's right? Who's wrong? And that's a very, very ugly place to be.
Well, it can ruin fun events. Like you guys, buying a
ruin
new car,
everything.
that can be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. And then you find that one, like, yeah, what does it really matter at the end of the day, right? But that causes that division. And now something that was fun, and I've heard you say it a couple times, how did this turn into
Yeah.
a fight? Like,
And
why
then
can't we
that
just
did not.
enjoy
That's
this?
because he was just like, yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
It did not turn into a fight. But even after he said, I was like, I didn't need to say that. I did not
And see,
need to say that.
I'm starting to catch those things.
Yeah.
But you know what's hard? The few days where like I should have said it.
Oh, I know. Or if it comes up again.
Oh my gosh, I've dealt with that too, where they get back on it, and I'm like, oh, but I know you're wrong now. Like I've had the time to do my research, but you know what? Zen. We're gonna
I will
let it go.
even get to the points if I'm really in tune, which sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, knowing he's feeling vulnerable or not as smart as, like, I'll even pretend like I don't know things that I do know.
Oh yes. Okay, good. I thought you were gonna say you like would pounce on that and take
No.
advantage of it. Yep,
I'll-
I've done that too.
he'll be like, why is blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, I've just basically laid all my knowledge on him for the past of everything. It's okay to not know this, even though I know it.
Right. Yep.
And so, or
Let him have a win.
he'll say something that I know is wrong. And I'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's tough because I talk so much and I believe so much in honesty and authenticity that, that kind of, but it's being kind.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better to be, I'm not lying, it's not a mean lie.
Mm-hmm.
It is just giving up having to be right to be kind.
See, and I'm gonna do this really quick because of time, but I think you can go to the extreme, and I do this. You can go to the extreme where you don't offer any feedback or anything because you're in the mindset of, oh, you don't need this. I don't need to correct you. But there are times, and like I said, we're not going to get into it now because it's probably a whole nother podcast and stuff. But there are times you got to find that good line.
Yeah,
Right.
Oh, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I don't know where it is.
I don't think anybody. I think it's an ever-changing line.
Where's it? Oh,
It's a moving target. So, last thing, and I'll just touch on this very quickly. You do have to trust yourself enough to listen to strangers. And I'm not saying strike up a conversation with the cashier, but if you have an opportunity to listen to strangers, you can learn so much.
Mhm.
But you can't if you're closed off.
Right.
And you can't do it if you come into a situation to say, I'm going to teach them. It has to be, I want to learn from, I'm going to listen, no matter what that might look like.
I love the conversations that can end with, I've learned a little more today.
Yes.
This was a very constructive conversation. And not that it is said that exact way, but then that's that when you part, you feel accomplished, even though maybe nothing was ever agreed on. Both have the same views when they started, but we're still friends, and I enjoyed this conversation.
Yep.
And I think that's what's missing a lot. And I can't zero it in, but I think social media and instant gratification and just how much information we get daily plays big into it. I don't know how, don't know why, but I think that plays a huge piece into we can't just agree to disagree
Right.
and walk away happy.
Yep. And on that note,
Ooh, we're going to walk away happy.
we're going to walk away happy. Thank you all for watching and or listening. We look forward to talking to you on the next podcast.